Hello everybody, it's The Shaun Show. Welcome back. Season 2, episode 24. We're going to be talking about Championship Sunday very, very quickly. Good morning to you all. Let's get straight into it. First up, we have the AFC Championship game at 3 p.m. ET today at Empower Field at Mile High in Denver. The Patriots are favored here, 3.5 points. That is likely because of Bo Nix injuring his foot and Jarrett Stidham starting. A lot of conversation around that whole situation this week. If you've been watching any of the sports news, we're not gonna harp on about it, so don't worry about that. Let's go over the weather first. Okay, so it's going to be 19 degrees Fahrenheit. That is -7 degrees Celsius. So it's going to be very cold. There's going to be snow showers. 7-mile-an-hour winds. That's not too much to affect the kicking game. I think more so the snow and the cold is going to affect everything else. The total over-under for this game is 42.5 points. You might think that's a very high number for two very defensive teams and a team that's not going in with their starting quarterback. But let's address that really quickly. So Jarrett Stidham, he was the #1 dual threat out of high school. He's played a couple of NFL games. And Sean Payton doesn't really need to change up the playbook that much. There's a reason he's been in the league for so long as a backup, because the dude probably has a lot of potential. So maybe the Broncos don't miss a beat on offense, but their defense is going to be running wild. So a little history on this these two teams for this playoffs at least. So in the wildcard round, the Patriots did beat the LA Chargers in a low-scoring affair of 16-3. Really good job for them to hold the offense to 0 touchdowns. But again, that game wasn't a great game to watch. And then in the divisional game last week, they beat the Houston Texans 28-16. The Broncos had a first-round bye. They were the #1 seed. And last week in the divisional, they knocked off the Buffalo Bills 33-30 in overtime. Some calls, people are saying questionable. They weren't questionable. They were the right calls. Now, injuries we have on the Patriots side. I'm talking about notable injuries here. So we've got Joshua Farmers. He is an offensive tackle. They do have a running back and a defensive tackle out. A linebacker as well, sorry. Harold Landry with a knee and Terrell Jennings. They're both out. Questionable is Mac Hollins. This is the big name that everybody's been talking about because he does contribute so much in the pass game. You do have Stephon Diggs. You do have Kayshon Boutte. You do have Hunter Henry. But Mac Hollins is kind of a big guy. He's physically a bit of a physical specimen. So he is definitely somebody that you want out on the field, drawing defenders to whatever side of the field that he is on. And then on the Broncos side of things, obviously we've got Bo Nix, he is out. We've got J.K. Dobbins, who is also out. We've got tight end Lucas Kroll, linebacker Drew Sanders as well. They do have a few questionables. Troy Franklin, wide receiver, center Alex Forsyth, center Luke Wattenberg, and safety J.L. Skinner the third. Now, two questionable centers, that doesn't bode well a whole lot for the Denver Broncos. Usually these games are quite physical games, especially towards the end of the playoffs. Toughest teams generally win. So, aside from their quarterback being out, they might be very, very thin at center, and I would not be surprised if they bull rush the absolute tits out of their centers just to see if they can get them off the field and put the Broncos in a really bad way. Patriots 3.5 here. Again, 42.5 over under. We'll go over who I like in the next section. But that's basically that game. Keep an eye out for it. 42.5 points over really does, that really is something though. That's a bit of an iffy one, but there is a stat where the Broncos, when they do versus a good offense, they generally do hit the over. So that while they do have a very good defense, they can leak points in a very competitive game. But let's move over to the NFC Championship. Now we've got the Los Angeles Rams going into Seattle at 6:30 p.m. ET tonight at Lumen Field in Seattle. This is the third game for these two. Obviously, they are divisional rivals, so they've played twice already this year. The first time they met, the Los Angeles Rams won 21-19 in Week 11. Sam Darnold had 4 interceptions in that game. Matt Stafford had 2 TDs. Kyren Williams had 1, and Kenneth Walker also had 1. Jackson Smith went for over 100 yards, and Puka hit 75 yards. Now, going over to their Week 16 game, a definitely much more high-scoring game, where the Seahawks did come back to win that game in overtime. Actually, had a fourth quarter comeback to put them in it in overtime. In that game, Stafford threw for 457 yards, 3 touchdowns and no interceptions. Puka Nacua went for 225 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. That was the game that Davante Adams was out, so he did not. They really did need to rely on Puka, and he had to have a massive game. Now, Sam Darnold, he threw another 2 interceptions. So out of these 2 meetings that they've had this season, he's thrown 6 interceptions. He had 270 passing yards with 2 touchdowns. Kenneth Walker got a touchdown. Kyren Williams did not get one in this game. And Jackson Smith in Jigba went for 96 yards and 1 tutty poo. That's how the games have gone so far. Seems as though the Rams dominate in yards. In the first game, they didn't dominate in yards. But it seems that Sam Darnold does throw quite a few picks in these matchups, so keep an eye out for that. I will get you the name of the mans who got the interceptions. We had Kobe Turner and Josh Wallace in the 2 interception affair. And then in the 4 interception affair, we had Cameron Kitchens had 2. Darius Williams had 1. And Kobe Durant had another 1. So keep an eye out for anyone to pick off Sam Darnold. I don't have a consistent name for you there. Now let's go over this matchup. 39 degrees Fahrenheit. It is going to be cloudy that evening. 4 degrees Celsius, so it's quite cold but not freezing. And only 1 mile an hour wind. So throwing the ball should be clean. Kicking the ball should be clean. Running the ball should also not be a slippery affair since there's no rain. Seahawks are favored by 1.5 here. So it essentially, because they're at home, this is essentially a pick'em. 45.5 points for the over, which did not get met the first time they hit, and then the second time they had a plus 70 game. So yeah, that one's fairly accurate right there. I think this game probably goes over. Let's have a look at their little history in the playoffs. So the Los Angeles Rams did have a win against the Carolina Panthers, a really tight win. I did actually have the Panthers picked in that game, 31-34, and then in the divisional round they beat the Chicago Bears in that overtime thriller, 20-17. Now Seattle Seahawks, again, they do get the first round bye because they were the first seed, and then last week they beat the San Francisco Niners. Sorry, they beat the shit out of the San Francisco Niners, 41-6. It was an absolutely dominant performance. Like, if you watch that game, holy moly. All right, let's go over to the injuries. So out for the Los Angeles Rams is offensive tackle Rob Havenstein, and then questionable is outside linebacker Byron Young. Those are the only 2 names on here. And then for the Seattle Seahawks, we do have out linebacker Chaz Surratt. Doubtful is offensive tackle Amari Kite with a knee. And then questionable, we've got fullback Robbie Oost with a neck, and offensive tackle Josh Jones. Now, I don't know if they do utilize their fullback a whole lot. There hasn't been much talk about the Seahawks in general, and generally not much talk about fullbacks anyway, unless you're the San Francisco 49ers. But that's basically the matchup right there. This one could go either way. Honestly, really very much could. As the books state, 1.5 points for Seattle Seahawks means this is a pick'em, definitely. All right, let's move over to the final part of the show, and that is the betting section. That's right. That's right. This week we only have one favorite dog. There are 2 dogs this week. I didn't think it was fair to call them both my favorite dogs, so I just chose one. It is the Los Angeles Rams, and again, this is a pick'em. I wouldn't really call them the underdog here, but they are my favorite dog this week. You can take them to win. Now let's go over some simple over-unders here for total points. We do have Patriots and Broncos. I'm going with the under there for 42.5 points. And then for the Patriots team total over, I'm going 23.5. So it really depends on how Jarrett Stidham performs. He's only had a week doing first team reps. It also depends on how well that center holds up, because if they do bull rush the crap out of either of those centers and they do get themselves in a bad way, well then it's just Jarrett's probably going to get hit a lot, so he's going to be uncomfortable anyway. They might have a very, very quick game set up for him to get him in a rhythm, but we'll see what happens. That's why I didn't choose any of the Broncos over under there. Now we've got the Rams and the Seahawks. I'm going with the over here, over 45.5 points, and I'm going with the over for both team totals. So Rams team total is over 22.5, and the Seahawks team over is 23.5. Some really really simple looking bets there, but hopefully they all pay off. Now we'll go with the prop bets over here. So for the first game, as you can see, I've broken them up. So for Patriots Broncos, I've got both quarterbacks to throw an interception in this one, and I actually also have Jarrett Stidham to throw 2 or more interceptions. As you can see there, JS2+. I've got both quarterbacks are rushing over. So Drake May's rushing over is 29.5. That's definitely something that he can and will do. And then we've got Jarrett Stidham with 15.5 over that. I feel like that's a really low line. So in the first week against the Chargers, Justin Herbert, a running quarterback, had, I think, almost 60 yards. So 15 is quite modest for Jarrett Stidham, who again was the top dual threat coming out of high school. So the man has legs, and they're fresh because he hasn't played a full career on the field getting beat up. I've also got Jarrett Stidham to rush a touchdown. If you know the Denver Broncos, you know that Bo Nix is a bit of a rusher, and you know they'd like to get him touchdowns. I would not be surprised if they decide to keep the ball safe, not let it go through the air. Obviously, they are out J.K. Dobbins as well. So I think Jarrett Stidham gets a touchdown here. I think on the goal line, they run one in with him. And then for the New England Patriots, I've got Efton Chisholm III to pick up a touchdown. This was a random pick. By all means, don't hold this one to gospel. It's just that the Patriots, you know, sometimes they will run a play. They'll pull something out of the bag where some guy that you have no idea whose name they are, they'll get a touchdown. Hey, they might get 2. So this week I'm rocking with the Efton Chisholm III to pick one up. And then I've got Keyshawn Boutte to pick up over 2.5 receptions. Again, if Mac Hollins is on the bad side of questionable and he doesn't play, then I think Keyshawn Boutte is a large part of this passing offense in that situation, and 2.5 receptions is very doable. Now we'll move over to the NFC Championship game. So I've got Devontae Adams to pick up a TD. You know that on the goal line, he's going to do a one-step slant. He's going to do a one-step fade. He's going to make separation, and he's going to get a touchdown. That's just the way that the Rams roll on the goal line. So don't be surprised if his stat line for the game is 1, 1, and 1. 1 catch, 1 yard, 1 tud. It happens. He's leading the league with touchdown catches right now, so he might get more than 1. Don't be surprised if he picks up 2. Now, I do have both QBs for the passing over of 256.5 and 231.5 for Sam Darnold. Again, in the first game that they met up, Sam Darnold did pass this. Stafford did not, but in that second game, that very high scoring game, both quarterbacks would have hit their overs there. So I think in a high scoring game, they both do it. I've got Kyron Williams to hit over 50.5 rushing yards as well. In their first matchup, he hit 91, and in the second, he hit 70. They do run him quite a bit. He's a big part of their offense, and he runs quite hard. Their run game is a great scheme. It's really schemed up nicely for him, so he does get yards. I think 50.5 is very doable. Then I've got Kenneth Walker III to pick up 2 touchdowns. With Zach Charbonnet being out with his ACL last week, he's going to be the main cowbell running the ball this week. They do like to split it up between their two running backs, but we'll see what happens this week. They might get Rashid Shaheed in on some rushes. If you do have an over for Rashid Shaheed rushing, it might be worth taking. He did pick one up in that last game they met, 1 rush for 31 yards. Again, Kenneth Walker is going to be the main running back here, and same with Kyron Williams, so I wouldn't be surprised if Kenneth Walker picks up 2, especially if Sam Darnold does throw 1 or 2 picks in this game. I don't have it on here, but Sam Darnold interception is probably quite a good bet. And then I do have Rashid Shaheed to pick up a touchdown. I think he got a punt return touchdown or a kickoff return touchdown last week against the 49ers. He's a big playmaker. If they do pass him the ball, it's going to be for big chunk yardage. So keep an eye out for him to catch the ball for a massive gain and maybe run one in on special teams. Then I've got Jackson Smith in Jigba to get 6.5 receptions. In their first game, he had 9 receptions, and in the second game, he had 8, so he's cleared that in both games. And then I do have Puka Nacua to hit over 91.5 receiving yards, which he has done only in the second game. That first game, Stafford did only have 130 yards, and 75 went to Puka. So he's a big player in this, but in a high-scoring game, I think pretty much all of these hit. Anyway, guys, that was the end of the show. It was a really short one today. Take those bets. They're your bets now. I'm going to be rocking probably the most of them. I can't multi them all together in one massive parlay, but do what you can. This is a big money week. If this game is a big scoring game, it's a big money week for sure. All right, guys. Enjoy the football later on today. I hope you're getting amped up. I hope you've got all the food, all the snacks, all the drinks, all the friends, all the football. God damn. We'll be back later on the week to give this AFC Championship a wrap-up and probably talk about some of the coaching changes that have gone on since the teams that lose tomorrow. Unfortunately, 2 teams will lose tomorrow. Their coaches will be available for interviews going into that Super Bowl kind of break and then week. The coaches on these teams that do make the Super Bowl, they cannot be interviewed or contacted by teams until after the Super Bowl. So you will definitely see some teams signing coaches and offensive and defensive coordinators to their rosters before this thing is over. And we'll bring you that news. Anyway, guys, like I said, enjoy the football. I'll catch you afterwards. Peace out. Hope your teams win. Hope your bets come through. And I'll catch you next time.